Good morning. Hi, I'm Amy Dalrymple. I am one of the worship associates here at First Parish in Sherburne. And I skipped the Unitarian Universalist Area Church part, so let me try again. It's the Unitarian Universalist Area Church at First Parish in Sherburne. A long name, a good community. So welcome. Come in bringing all of who you are. We gather and worship, our hearts alive with hope that here we will be truly seen. Turn down the volume on your fears and loosen the armor around your heart. May we root ourselves in the value of this faith, acceptance and encouragement, compassion and transcendence, justice and transformation. We strive not for perfection, obviously, but for authenticity and connection. We come here to learn about being in relationship together, to listen, to forgive, to be vulnerable, to create trust, and to have compassion for one another. We are gathered here to walk each other home, be here in this moment, let go, breathe. And now a few logistical announcements. I'm really not together this morning, I apologize. I'll get warmed up. Anyway, so let's say hello to everybody who's watching online. The camera is up there. Thank you. I want to let you know that the prayer cards are over here. If you would like to fill one out, and we'll read your prayer later in the service. You can also light a candle if you wish. If you would like to sign up for some fun jobs for future services, the sign-up sheets are over there as well. So you can sign up to ring the bell, you can bring flowers, or light the chalice. And I want to do a special welcome for any newcomers today. We want to stay in touch with you, so please fill out one of the blue cards in the pews, and they're being held up. Good job, everyone. That's how we will connect with you, so just drop them in the offering basket. There are no religious education classes today. Children are welcome to stay in the sanctuary. There's a family area in the back with quiet toys or listen from the library. And our nursery is open, but I don't know if we have anybody in the pre-K age group, but they are open and ready to provide care for those kids. And I want to welcome our preacher this morning, who's the Reverend Gary Strichartz, a longtime member of our congregation. Welcome, Gary. All right, so now we're going to take time to greet each other. So please ask for consent for hugs and handshakes, but we especially encourage you to greet someone you don't know. We're a smaller group today, so you can move around.
morning. I'm the Reverend Gary Strichartz. Always feels strange to say that standing up here. I'm usually down there. Thank you, Amy. And I welcome you this morning. I thought I'd wear something a little different than the standard black robe, celebratory, etc. And so since I missed the Harvard graduation, I thought I'd get in one last wearing. Our opening words this morning are from a collection of poetry by Mary Oliver. Truly, we live with mysteries too marvelous to be understood. How the grass can be nourishing in the mouths of lambs. How two hands touch and the bonds will never be broken. Let me keep my distance always from those who think they have the answers. Let me keep company always with those who say, look, and laugh in astonishment and bow their heads. Please rise in body and spirit, sing our opening hymn, number 38, Morning Has Broken, in the gray hymnal. And let's remain standing while Elias and nobody, McCoy, come to light the chalice. Now let us say together our affirmation. Both are expressions of our life and faith here in this congregation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. Please be seated. This is the time when we draw nearer to our center, to ourselves. Whether you're here in the sanctuary or at home.
Yeah, we just wanted to come to the house.
I usually love extemporaneous prayer, but in this case, it's whether you're here in the sanctuary or at home, I invite you to relax, put your feet on the ground, be comfortable in your space. Take a few grounding breaths and a slow exhale. Breathe in the things that you want, the peace, the harmony, the ease of being, and breathe out the things that you'd like to let go of. Any tension, impatience, distractions. Find your center and breathe in. And let us take a moment of stillness. And now our call to prayer. Many of us carry with us today prayers for loved ones, the world we share, and prayers of joy and thanksgiving. You're invited to stand if you wish when a prayer is read, your prayer is read, so that others may connect with you later. Okay. We share the following prayers for loved ones. For Amy's son, Andy Dalrymple, who's walking the Camino de Santiago in Spain now. For others who are struggling with illness, with substance abuse, with poverty, and with pain. We hold them in our hearts. We embrace them with compassion, and we light a candle in their name. And we lift up those prayers for the larger world, for the suffering in Gaza, without caring about sides, but knowing that starvation, murder, dominance are not the world that we want to be, and to commit ourselves to changing those things. We light a candle for all those in the world who are suffering. And for this beautiful day, and for being together in this sanctuary, and for being together in the times between Sundays, in community, with our caring selves, and for the beautiful world. We're grateful, and we light a candle. Holy One, fill our hearts, lift up our spirits. Bless our gathering, our coming in, our going out. Ease our pains, raise our joys. Know our gratitude. We'll now have an interlude for meditation. Find your quiet space here.
The reading today is The Guest House by Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. And now we will do the morning offering. Every week we collect an offering and we give it all away to support an organization that lives out our values of love, service, justice, and peace in the world. We're able to give 100% of our offering away thanks to your pledges to our church, which keeps going. Thank you. You may contribute by using the QR code provided on the laminated order of service in the pews, or by placing your donation in the plate that will be coming around. This morning's offering will be shared with Bikes Not Bombs. Bikes Not Bombs uses the bicycle as a vehicle for social change to achieve economic mobility for Black and other marginalized people in Boston and the global South. Each year we collect 5,000 used bicycles and tons of used parts from our supporters around Greater Boston and New England. We ship most of these bikes overseas to economic development projects through our international partnerships in Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean. Bikes that don't get shipped are distributed in youth pathways, where teens learn bicycle safety and mechanics skills in the process of earning bikes to keep for themselves. Staff and paid youth apprentices working in our retail bike shop and training center also recondition and sell some of the donated bikes that we receive.
morning. Great to be with you here this morning, to be present in this place, in this space, with you all. I really do like preaching. It's an opportunity to come up with an idea, to shape some words around it, and to share it with others. Linnea, my wife, worried the title of this sermon might suggest something other than its intention, concerned that some people would equate intimacy with sex and think that they were coming to hear an ad for intimate apparel or a description of a Stormy Daniels film, but actually just the opposite, since sex per se interferes with the development of true intimacy, which is essential for authentic loving. And that's all I'll say about that. Seriously though, have you ever been sitting next to a stranger on a trip, say, on an airplane flight, and had an opportunity, welcomed or not, to start a conversation? I've had, and I have two thoughts about these when I'm sitting there. One is the wish to ignore the neighbor and their opening lines, to slip into my book or a movie or some other convenient and more comfortable distraction. The other is to choose to reply, to enter into discourse. But that's risky, isn't it? You never know what you'll hear or be asked, how difficult, awkward, and challenging the exchange might be. And once begun, how do you end it without appearing to be rude or dismissive? Rachel Naomi Remen describes our interactions with other people as being either an encounter or an engagement. She points out that we have many encounters where we meet another and interact in a superficial way, sharing the minimum of information and taking little effort to learn more about each other. And we only occasionally connect more deeply, an engagement where we listen and ask and share our deeper stories, where we form some bond of relationship. Today I want to tell you about two real situations where engagements occurred. The first involved my wife Linnea. We were flying back from a trip to Europe, having missed our connecting flight and taking a day longer to return, and we were tired and we just wanted to curl up in our seats and close our eyes, maybe sleep. I was on Linnea's right on the window, and she was flanked on her left by an older man. At that time, he seemed older. Maybe in his 80s. Yeah. And he had a very, very strong body odor, which almost oozed out of him. And he began to talk with her. Now, Linnea is the kindest person, and she would never offend anyone. So she began an exchange with questions about where he was going and why. He'd been traveling for 5 days, it turns out, shuttling between too many airports without a chance to shower or shave or brush his teeth, traveling from Israel to New York to be with his dying brother. They were Jewish survivors of World War II, but not from concentration camps. They were surviving in the forests of Poland. There they had to avoid detection by both the Nazis and the Polish partisans, who were also ruthless anti-Semites. This man was only a boy when then, and one day, as a troop of partisans rode nearby on horseback, his older teenage brother, the one now dying, rolled him into a roadside ditch and lay on top of him, very still, protective, and life-saving. He hadn't seen his brother for decades. They left Europe in different directions, and now he was heading for a long overdue reunion, hopefully before his brother died. They were the last survivors of their family's generation. I overheard the second part of this story, and by its end, we all three were weeping. It always amazes me What intimate stories are shared when we ask questions and truly listen to the answers? In the second situation, I was returning to Boston from a meeting in the Midwest on a Sunday morning flight of only a few hours. I had an aisle seat, my preference lately since it's easier to reach the bathroom from the aisle and older age propels me there more frequently. An older woman was in the window seat and she was as motionless as a stone. She didn't respond to any of the flight attendants' offer of drink or snack. But after an hour, she began to rock back and forth and to shake her head and to emote with low sounds. And I began to think that she was a little mentally unbalanced and think about what was I going to do to give her space to get out if she felt like she needed to get out of there. But as her distress became even more overt, I took the risk of asking her if she was okay. And then she told me that her daughter, just 22 years old, had been murdered in Boston the night before by a kid firing a gun randomly at a party. The daughter had just graduated from college and was heading towards a promising future. The mother, clearly in shock from this loss of a child, the worst loss than anyone can experience, said she was planning to meet some people she didn't know to collect her child and her child's things and bring her back to Cincinnati. I too was shocked, almost speechless. What can you say that would ease the pain of such a loss? I like to remember that I offered to accompany her to wherever she needed to go, and she refused. She needed the privacy of her grief, the blanket of silence. I like to remember that I put an arm around her shoulders, shifting over one seat, and tried to ease her lonely angst. But I don't remember what I did or what I said. I only remember the woman and her grief. This grieving soul, her sharing the saddest news in the world in reply to my invitation to ask how she was. I felt drawn into the intimacy of her grief, even as I was helpless to lessen her suffering. An experience of intimacy I will never forget. Some told stories turn us to stone. So here I am with you today. The message of this sermon is simple. Our life is richer and more meaningful when we live it with intimate experiences and relationships. Now, following the established tradition of this pulpit, I'll share the etymology of intimate. It comes from the Latin intimare, meaning to make familiar or to impress. And there from intimus, meaning inmost. Intimate relationships are ones that touch our inmost selves, sharing that exposes us to others and to ourselves. They require risk-taking and a recognition and acceptance of our deep vulnerability. And the rewards, I believe, are the most gratifying ones in life. I've learned about this, about intimacy, and continue to learn and grow through my ministry of chaplaincy. My assignment at the Milford Regional Medical Center is primarily in the palliative care unit, the place where the sickest and most infirm patients live and for many are preparing to die. After I enter a room as a total stranger in most cases and very briefly introduce myself by first name and as the hospital chaplain, no religious affiliation, I'm the chaplain for everyone of all faiths or no faith. After this I ask, how are your spirits today? The answers, as you might guess, vary from fine to not so hot to lousy. And occasionally, in so many words, none of your business. My question about spirit status is an invitation to intimacy. It's a question that doctors and nurses don't ask, not because it's not important to them, but because they really don't have time to listen to the answer, and often don't know how to listen. But I do, through training and by intention, and by my tone and posture, I let the patient know that I'm there to truly listen to them, without any agenda, religious or otherwise. Regardless of their first reply, fine or lousy or hey, I'm all set, I take the chance of my invitation being rejected and ask what it is that lifts their spirits and what brings them down. And then they can choose to trust me with their deeper drivers or not. Unless there's an obvious request that I leave, I pull up a chair, sit at eye level, indicating that I'm there to be with them, not above them and not for them. And I open my listening mind with emotional honesty, empathy, and compassion. Although I often feel my own emotional responses to things that they share, I've learned how to continue listening through and beyond my egocentric self. During a visit, a patient may reveal some deep worry or secret. Some say, I'm desperately afraid to die, but I can't tell this to my family because it will distress them, and I need to be strong for them. I've always been the strong one. Or they'll confess, I've never told anyone about this before, but when I was young. And frequently, someone will admit a fear of being unworthy for admittance to heaven. Up there, they say, looking upward, or with the big guy, or him. So how does a UU minister respond to these deepest concerns about worthiness when I don't share these patients' dogma, or orthodoxy, or patriarchy, or sexism? Well, I interpret what they are saying, feeling, to mean that they feel abandoned by God. God being that idea that they hold either as a concrete image, Jesus, or an old bearded guy in the Sistine Chapel ceiling, or as some abstract presence, warm, bright light, a halo of radiance in the world, both of which have been accepted and cherished during most of their lives without question. But now, towards the end, questions about God's presence arise. A final reckoning cannot be avoided or delayed. Or maybe the doubts were always there, but were shoved aside as dangerous, heresy, or weakness, a sign of lack of faith. And I think they must trust me to give them an answer that will heal their spirits and restore their faith, to assure them that everything's going to be all right. And I do. My role as a spiritual caregiver is to ask those questions that allow them to see their innate goodness, to remember the good deeds that they've done and the love that they've made, and not be dragged down by some remembered misdeed, some sin. To reestablish their trusting, intimate relationship with the divine by inviting them to recall and embrace their belief in love and caring that God has meant to them before the worry and the doubts crept in. People almost always welcome that affirmation, their intimate relationship with God and the comfort that it brings in the present and for the future, even into eternity. I don't tell them anything that they don't already know. I just help them remember. Friends, people are hungry for intimacy, and intimacy with God is pretty safe, as long as God is the warm, loving presence that never punishes and never abandons. It's not necessary that I believe the theological aspects of their belief, but only that I believe in them, their kindness, goodwill, and truly loving selves. And to do that convincingly requires that I believe those things about myself. But how do we achieve intimacy with people in our everyday lives? And how do we trust ourselves and others to be honest and caring, to be both truthful and gentle with our vulnerable selves? Can you dare to candidly answer the question, how are my spirits? I think that's a tall order. And I wonder if you don't feel the same. Come on, folks. Aren't there times when your spirits are ugh, and you're wanting them to be ah? That's sure true for me, and probably more often than I'm willing to admit it. But here's the catch, friends. I think that the dishonesty about our negative feelings about ourselves and others robs us of true intimacy. As Rumi teaches in today's reading, we should welcome all of our feelings if we want to be all of ourselves, to have integrity, to be whole. Pretending that everything is always okay may feel like a safer course of action, but it masks us from the acceptance of authentic being, and it interferes with genuine gratitude, which is really the only kind. And finally, I'd like to propose a way that we can reach this acceptance and wholeness. It's easy, and it's hard. And I think we all know it, but can benefit by being reminded. We can alter our approach by being more aware of all the things outside of us that we sense and of the feelings inside that motivate our response to that awareness. I was recently reminded of the opening of a book, probably the first book that I and many of you of a similar age read in school. The book was titled Fun with Dick and Jane. And the first sentences were, "Look, Jane, look. See Spot run?" Spot was the dog, yeah, okay, you get that. What's the first word? Look. Our first school lesson was to look in order to see, to be aware. And I suggest to you that awareness is still the first call, that we should put a premium on attending to the reality that exists outside of us and inside of us. Then we are most open to listen, to respond in an emotionally honest way, and to act compassionately. To take the risks that come with an acceptance of the invitation to intimacy. To step into and to welcome intimacy, and thereby become our truest, most complete selves. Can there be a greater blessing? May it be so, and amen. Please rise now for our closing hymn, number 34 in your gray book, Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire. Let us say our call to ministry aloud. We go forth into the world in peace to act with works of love, to affirm each person's dignity, and to cherish the living earth. May we be blessed with awareness, creatures engaging with this beautiful created world, sensing all that flows around us and within us. May we be blessed in relationships, the opportunity to listen, to be heard, to be seen, to be held, the experience of love. May we know our being through and through knowing the other, growing and reaching and leaping. And may we treasure each breath as we treasure and cherish one another. It is a blessing to be with you here today. It is a blessing to be with you here. It is a blessing to be with you. It is a blessing to be.